Welcome to Forgotten Hollywood on Therapy Cable. Here is the Hollywood backstory. Doc Martin is a quality program that is a British import. Like Downton Abbey, the production partners with PBS with the intent to air on television in the United States. These kinds of shows are intelligently written and beautifully crafted, wonderfully acted, and viewers are gaga over the weekly programming.
Welcome to Forgotten Hollywood, streaming on the Therapy Cable channel. Here's your host, Manny Pacheco.
Welcome to Forgotten Hollywood on Therapy Cable. The Forgotten Hollywood journey includes an award-winning book series that I've written, of course, my website on ForgottenHollywood.com, of course, the radio show that I do on 90.1 FM KBPK, and a documentary currently in production. Today's guest is Linda G., who is the podcast producer and host of Rock the Doc, which celebrates the program Doc Martin that airs in Southern California on KCET. She is a longtime behind-the-scenes craftsperson with Groundhog Day, The Fugitive, Thor, and Anchorman on her resume. She's also a motivational speaker, stand-up comic, and does warm-up for live studio audiences. Linda is one busy woman in the industry who also is committed to economic empowerment and a litany of issues in Hollywood.
The fate of the missing in action has always been one of the most unsettling and sad consequences of war. Families left in constant misery over the fate of their loved one. It didn't matter which side they fought on, the pain and suffering is still the same.
Welcome, Linda, to Forgotten Hollywood.
Thank you, Manny. Thanks for letting me be on your show.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to have you. I don't want to bury the lead. We just showed one of the things that you do, but one of the how we met had to do with that fabulous show known as Doc Martin. And you actually do a podcast. Just yesterday, I was watching Downton Abbey, and they were promoting their podcast over PBS. But you really have the corner market on Doc Martin, and just recently you interviewed its star Martin Clunes. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast.
Well, my podcast is about the TV show Doc Martin. I fell in love with it. My podcast partner, Karen Haverly, was at my house, and she said, "Hey, you got to watch this British TV show." And I'm not a TV watcher very much at all. You know, maybe BBC News on KCET, but that's it. And I fell in love with this show. I binged watched the first 4 episodes, and I was instantly hooked. So we decided to do a podcast. I'd never done a podcast, and I got my engineering friends together, and I said, "How do I do this?" We got up and running, and within about 2 weeks, we found our niche. I know my target audience very well. They are very enthusiastic. They're called Cluniacs because of Martin Clunes. And they're a great group of women, mostly women, some men, over the age, I'd say, of 30. And they're just fantastic. They support us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on the show, which is airing right now.
Do you feel that your viewers are just a more, without trying to sound elitist, a more intelligent viewer of good television, quality television?
Absolutely. And I believe KCET brings that to the viewers, not only with Doc Martin, but Downton Abbey and many others. It's a good show. It's well written. It's well done. And I think people just really enjoy the simplicity of Port Isaac, the doc, everything that's going on. They just love it.
Well, of course, I'm a viewer also. I'm a big fan of Doc Martin, obviously. My wife and I, she turned me on to it, and of course, I haven't stopped ever since it goes on. It's Thursday must-see television for myself. Tell us a little bit about the podcast. Now, you just, as I mentioned, interviewed Martin Clunes as a star. I mean, you're not talking about just a run-of-the-mill podcast. You're actually getting the actors and the main star, the title character, Doc himself, on your podcast. That's got to be that's pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. It was a dream come true. I started this podcast just to have fun and just to spend time with my friend and see what we could do. And it has evolved to this. I'd love to do more with Martin and Philippa. We also had Ian McNeice on, and he was a complete joy. I worked hard at this. I sent emails and I suggested and I said, would you like to be on it? And it happened that Martin and his lovely wife, Philippa, were going to be in Los Angeles. So they emailed me and said, yes, we'd love to be on your show. We're going to be in Los Angeles. It would work for us if this day worked for you. I did whatever I needed to. Karen flew out from Chicago, and my business partner, Steve, was here, and we put it all together. We packed it up. We went to their hotel. We had a lovely time. I really want to say that the Kloonses were just so sweet, so kind. They made us feel at ease. And you can tell why Doc Martin is a quality show. And it's because of the producers and the people on the show. And Martin and Philippa were just aces. They were just so kind and so professional, and they made us feel so good.
And for those folks who do watch Doc Martin, I would imagine that Martin is nothing like the character of Martin Ellingham.
Yes, he was so jovial. I've never met a man so happy, and he just beamed and he had a great time. And Philip and Martin both said at the end that they had a wonderful time being on the podcast. They were smiling. There were kisses and hugs afterwards, and we thanked them and they thanked us. And all I can hope for is more of that. And we were invited to go to Port Isaac next year for season 8, and there is a season 9. We both were confirmed, got that confirmed for both Ian and Philippa. She's the producer, so if it's coming from her. So we were very excited about that, and we're excited for more shows. That's what we are.
I'd like to thank you for that breaking news. That's good. That's always good on a program to have that kind of information.
You're welcome.
But this isn't your first rodeo. Obviously, you've done a lot of, your resume speaks for itself, and you've done a lot of work behind the camera, but you seem to be very comfortable in front of the camera. One of the things that you do to complement your podcast, which we'll get back to in just a second, is that you're a motivational speaker. Tell us a little bit about that and about your stand-up comedy, your warming up of live audiences. I mean, you really are busy. You're one of the working professionals of Hollywood.
Oh, thank you again. I love talking to people about their passion. I'm passionate about people finding their passion. I found mine at an early age. I always knew I wanted to get into TV somehow, some way. I was doing stand-up comedy at the age of 5. My mother, yes. My mother had a women's club. If you remember that in the 70s and 80s, that was a big deal.
Sure.
And I got to go at the end of the evening before I went to bed and had my jammies on. I got to tell a joke. So my mother said one night, would you like to tell one of your jokes? And I said, sure. Now, this is in the era of the Polish joke. I don't know if you remember that whole realm.
I do remember. I am old enough to remember that, obviously.
Well, I had a lot of relatives and a lot of male figures in my life, uncles and stuff, that would tell me Polish jokes. And I had a great memory for this because a laugh meant you got attention, and it meant love to me. So whenever I could tell my uncles and everybody a new joke and make them laugh, that was bonkers for me. So I told my joke, and can I say it? Can I tell the joke?
Well, I don't know if the joke is. Well, go ahead. Why not?
It's not offensive. As a kid, I thought this was hilarious. It was. I told 3 jokes, and the last one was, because I have to put the punch at the end. I said, "Why do Polacks have glass garbage cans?" Now, put this in perspective. Most of the people in the room are Polish, Slovak, Hungarian, all Eastern Bloc. So it was nothing for them. This didn't bother them. So I said, "Why do Polacks have glass garbage cans?" So they can go window shopping. The timing wasn't great.
For a 5-year-old, I think that would be pretty funny.
Yeah, and we had alleys, and people used to go up and down the alleys looking for, stuff that was thrown out. So in my neighborhood, that was a completely useful joke. And I killed that night, all 3 jokes. And every night my mother would have club, which was once a month. I got new jokes. I was ready. And so that was the start of it.
Wow. Now, as far as being a motivational speaker, what are some of the topics that you cover? And who is your audience? Who do you try to reach?
I try to reach young adults through however old you are. it's never too late to find your passion. It's never too late to go for what you want. I sort of did a midlife change, went from the camera department, which I really enjoyed and loved, to doing motivational speaking, doing stand-up, doing anything I could to get in front of people, to talk to people, to entertain people. That became my passion. And I just try to really motivate people in the realm of find your vision, find what you want, and make that work. It can. You have to visualize. Everything I've done in my life, I've visualized ahead of time. I've had conversations with people. How was I going to act? How was I going to be in front of these people? And anyone that's done motivational speaking or speaking of any type, as you know, you have to rehearse. And with being on movie sets with these A-list people like Harrison Ford and having friends in stand-up like Tom Dreesen, it was all about the preparation. It's all about the activation of your mind, getting involved, being prepared, and most importantly, having the passion to do this. What do you really want to do? Focus on that one thing, and it will happen.
And making it feel like your delivery is spontaneous, when actually it's probably quite prepared. Do you find that your audience are individuals in the business, or do you have you broadened beyond the business? Tell me a little bit about that.
Most of the people are beyond the business. I think people want to know what you've done, but they want you to relate that to now. Like, how is Hollywood relatable to me now? So I really try to involve people that are not in the business because they seem to be more takers. They seem to be more interested. You know, there's very few followers. You know, there's more followers than there are leaders. I'm just trying to be a leader that helps you become a leader with someone else and to someone else.
Now, what are some of the topics you cover, and how is it that you help these folks? And using Hollywood, I think, is I can speak from experience in this too. The idea that people, when you say Hollywood, it's like saying Hawaii or Las Vegas. People really, they glob onto that. So how do you use that to get people to find their dream or their niche or their career?
Well, I came from Whiting, Indiana, which is a small town in the northwest corner of Indiana. And there you got married, you had kids, you know, maybe you're a librarian, you know, wonderful stuff. You grew your family. I knew that was not for me. I knew that when I watched TV that I needed to be there and I needed to do that. So coming from that small town and that beautiful community spirit, to be able to say, I want to go to Hollywood, everyone was like, are you sure? Is this really something you want to do? Right. And it was my passion. Ever since I was a kid, if my parents were here today, they would tell you that it was all about movies and TV. That's all I wanted to do. So for me to come from that place and to be able to do The Fugitive, which was shot in Chicago, I'm happy to say, and then to come out here and to be able to do movies in Hollywood. I've been to India, I've been to Vietnam. I have something to tell you. I've proved something. I've taken that small town girl and I've taken her to Hollywood. Now that just doesn't happen overnight. It takes determination, it takes passion, and you just have to go for it. And that's what I did. I just laid it all on the line. I said, this is what I want to do.
And you're right about that. It doesn't happen overnight. I saw an interview with J.K. Simmons when he won his Academy Award, and he had mentioned, I'm an overnight success after 40 years in the business. I mean, I do understand what you're talking about. But what are some of the success stories of your motivational speaking that you've done?
Well, I've had quite a few people contact me and say, you know, I thought it was too late for me. And I said, it's never too late. You have to find out what you want to do. I don't want to retire. I want to work until the day I die. I want to be happy with what I do. And I want other people to feel that way. You know, yes, people want to retire, but I want to motivate those people that say, you know what, I got a breath in me. I want to do this. You know, maybe it's something that they've always wanted to do. The children are grown and they want to get involved with things and do something else. I say, great, do it. Don't just sit back. Get involved. Do what you want to do. I had a lady email me one day and said, I just don't know if I can put forth the time and effort. And I said, what else do you have to do? She said, not much. And I said, well, then think about what really makes you happy. If it's spending time with your children, then maybe you need to, do more of that. Just get involved and do more and be more passionate about things. I'm not an overnight success. You're not an overnight success. But what we bring is credibility. We have the credibility of these credentials behind us and people that can vouch for us. But I think when I talk with people, I bring passion. So this lady wrote me back and she said, you know what? She said, I decided that I was going to get more involved with the day-to-day care of my grandchildren. She said, that's what I really want to do. She said, I'm moving cross country to California and I'm going to spend more time with them. So if I just did one little thing and helped this person realize that where she was in Chicago is not where she really wanted to be. She wanted to be with her family, and that just motivated her to do that, to find her passion, which was her children and her grandchildren. That's all I ask, is that maybe I helped one person.
And you said something really important here. The idea that somebody can either take a hobby or maybe a career change. The idea that you want to work until you die, the day you die. I find that by writing my blog and by writing my books, it's not really, you don't consider it work. You enjoy what you're doing. And with that attitude, you never do have to retire. Is that the message you're trying to impart?
I'm trying to just say, find your passion, no matter what it is. No matter if you're 22, no matter if you're 92, you still can find your passion and you can still do it. You can be active. You can get involved in little things. If you want to be a writer, then start writing. Start doing something today. They always say it takes a week or two to get into a pattern to start doing it. I say start doing it now. If I wanted to be a motivational speaker, you just don't come about it. You have to work on it. This is not overnight. I wish it was, as we were talking about, but it's not overnight. And no matter what your passion is, no matter what you need to do, if it's a change of life, do it. Because listen, the world does not need any more angry people. We want happy people in this life. And it means if they want to do something like you're doing, then watch what Manny does. Find out what he does. How does he do it? Investigate it. So I tell people, take what you want to do and research it. That is one of the best things you can do. Become that. I put in my mind every day what I want. I reaffirm myself every day, what do I want? And then I say, I'm thankful and I'm grateful and that I'm deserving of this, because everybody is. But you have to put the time, the work, and the passion into it.
It's kind of a journey. I would have to agree with you. It's a real journey. We're going to be back with Linda G in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break, and we will return here on Forgotten Hollywood on Therapy Cable.
Hi, welcome to Adelante. This is Adelante Recovery, and my name is Yvette Kuglin, and I'm part of the staff.
Adelante Recovery Center has helped people in dual diagnosis for 5 years. We accept most PPO insurances and provide luxury accommodations and 24-hour support. To speak with an admissions counselor, call 1-888-242-4450.
A lot of time we don't even know what's wrong with us, and sometimes we need to get away to figure that out. So if you want to go for a little retreat out in Corona Del Mar, which is a confidential location, we're here to help. So we're only a phone call away. Thank you.
We're back with Linda G, who has got a wonderful career going, and she's right in the middle of that career, constantly reinventing herself with a podcast that you can hear, Rock the Doc. I have some information that's available on iTunes, Podomatic, on your website. Tell us what website. That would be kind of an interesting way to find you. How do we find Rock the Doc?
Well, there's a couple ways. RockTheDocPodcast.com That is our website. And you can also listen to our podcast at that site. And my podcast partner and co-producer, Karen, she also writes a blog. So if you read the blog, you'll know what's coming. And we just sort of recap a little bit. And then at the bottom of the screen is our podcast. And we have, I think it's 48 podcasts now, one for every episode. And then the episode with Martin Clunes, Philippa Clunes, Ian McNeese, and then we sort of did a wrap-up because we had so many cards and letters, as they say, from people saying, well, what was it really like? What really happened? How did this all evolve? So we have that all on rockthedocpodcast.com. And as you said, Facebook page, Twitter, but I think Facebook and email is how we get most of our information. You can also go to heylindag.com. That's my website, and if you look in the menu, you can see a link to Rock the Doc podcast.
What has been the response from KCET? I'm sure it's been quite positive that they see that you're really out there promoting one of their programs, and in essence, you're promoting KCET. I'm sure it's been a wonderful partnership there.
KCET has acknowledged the fact that I've done the podcast, and they have liked my page, and we've conversed a little bit. Rock the Doc podcast is a very niche podcast, as I said, and our listeners are not inclined to go to other websites or Facebook pages. There's about 4 or 5 different Doc Martin and Martin Clunes Facebook pages, as well as my Rock the Doc page, and that's where a lot of them tend to congregate. It seems to be that's where they want to go. As KCET has said to me, we don't get a lot of overflow from people. We don't get a lot of cards and letters and emails from people. So KCET knows I'm out there, but we don't have a big dialogue because there's not a lot of traffic going on between Doc Martin fans and the show.
Now, KCET's in Los Angeles, but how about
Yes.
PBS in general? How about that?
Actually, nothing from PBS, and I would gladly welcome that. KCET did join up with public television, and they did a very nice behind the scenes in Port Isaac this last season for season 7, and they sent 2 gentlemen out. They did a nice little video behind the scenes, and it was well done. But we have not had really any contact, and I would certainly welcome that from KCET or public television.
I think that would be wonderful. Now, you talk behind the scenes. That's really where the essence of your career in Hollywood started. And you mentioned, you alluded to the fact that you had worked with Harrison Ford and you worked on really A-list films. I mean, you've really had a career that you can really call your own and be very proud of. What do you say to individuals, and this also ties into your motivational speaking for those folks that are in the business, what do you say to those individuals who want to get in the business, but you want to be realistic, obviously? I agree with you. The passion is important. Putting in the work is important. Finding your niche is important. But you know, saying it and doing it, sometimes people, they look at you and they're a little lost. What do you say to folks? Because we're both kind of fortunate. We both have found our niches. We know what we need to do in the second half of our career, maybe the third. What do you try to tell folks who are trying to find that niche?
I get a lot of my friends who now have children that are getting into college and beyond, and they'll say, can you talk to my son or daughter about going into film? I don't know if it's right for them. So I never decline a phone call or a text message or whatever. I tell them, if you want to get into film business, production, whatever it is, you better be ready to work. It's, Manny, as you know, it is about the work ethic. It's about putting it in. It's about giving your time. Early on, I did a lot of freebies until I started to get good and recognized, and people say, oh yeah, hire Linda, she's great. You gotta give that. You have to be ready to sleep on a floor if you need to in somebody's houses, to go to Saskatchewan if they want you and the pay is little. You have to be ready to do that. That is what production and getting into the business is about. So I say be ready for that. Be ready to give. Be ready to jump in and be passionate about it. And I don't necessarily think all the time that colleges are the best place if you want to get in production. I think you need the talent and you need the passion more than anything. If you have a college degree, that's great. But just jump in, hang on, give it your best, because that's all I did. I just had the passion. I jumped in. I was a hard worker. When it was cold and rainy and they'd say, the battery's on the truck and we need one, I was out the door before they said the word battery. I mean, it was like, and it's about anticipation, I think, in this business as well, is I had some really great mentors, and I suggest mentors, getting involved with people. But I think the biggest thing I would say to young people is email back people right away. Text them back. If somebody says to you, hey, here's my card, call me, I'll help you, do it. I've given out quite a few of my cards and said, I'll be happy to talk with you. I'm happy to grab a cup of coffee with you and tell you my story and how I did it, and just tell me what you're thinking. I'm more than ready and up for that. But in the last 5 or 10 years, I think I've had 2 people take me up on that offer. And all I'm willing to do is talk to them and tell them, I can't get you a job, but I can maybe steer you on what you should do or where you should go. This is Hollywood. There's 1 million jobs out there. There's 1 million internet job sites for production. But you have to put forth the effort. It's not going to be handed to you in this town, not at all.
Without getting too controversial, obviously the Oscars had this big controversy, and I don't want to get into that, but being a woman in the business, me being a Latino in the business, I find that you're right. There are a lot of jobs. Saying no is a bad habit. Saying yes and whatever career path you decide to take is always probably a worthy investment. What do you say to other up-and-coming or aspiring young ladies who might want to empower themselves in this business?
Know it faster, better than any man.
Wow, that's great. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, and you're very cut and dry about that. That's good.
Well, that was my theory. I had some very good mentors. Steve Hiller, who's now my business partner, I worked for him for 20 years. I was his second assistant. We went all over the United States and the world. And he told me, he said, as a woman, you got to know it faster and better than anyone. And on 2 occasions, very early on working with Steve, I fixed something on the camera because I was a camera prep tech at Panavision, which was a fantastic place to get your feet wet and to just know all the equipment. I had to know the technical end. I had to know it better than anyone else because there's always a guy standing behind you that would know it. But as a woman, know it faster and better, but you can't glorify it. Okay, so one day the camera has a problem. And Steve gets on the phone. This is in the early 90s. I think we were doing Baby's Day Out or something like that. As he turned around to get on the phone, I fixed the problem. And when he got back, he said, all they said I had to do is, and he looked at me, and I didn't say a word. I didn't say, ha ha, look what I did. He knew that I knew it. I knew that I knew it. That's all that needed to be said.
Right.
Because if you take the glory, we used to say one attaboy doesn't add up to all the crap that you may have messed up. But just know it faster, know it better, but have the humility and be able to joke around with the guys because the set is 90% men. And if you can't take a joke or a laugh or something from a guy, it's going to be a long day on the set.
Right.
Enjoy yourself, but know who you are as a woman. That you will get respected if you give respect. And you, like I said, you just got to know it faster and better than the guys. And if they say, hey, we need something, be on your way getting it.
You know, on a side note on that, I have a friend I went to college with who wanted to be the next Mike Wallace. And for the last 35 years, she's worked for CNN. She actually lives in Egypt. She's been one of the top cameramen or camera people, I guess, for CNN. And she's been embedded in wars. And I always tell her to be careful. And you know, it's a dangerous business that she's in, but you know, she's exactly the same things that you have said. She knows that she knows it better than men. She's not afraid to jump in, and she doesn't fear. She has no fear.
Yeah. I think with what you and I both do with public speaking, with doing stand-up comedy, with job in camera, I think that is the key, Manny. I think it's having no fear. I have a little tag all around my house that says, what have I got to lose? because you don't. You have to put yourself out there no matter what you do. No matter if you're a nurse, no matter if you're a teacher, no matter if you're on TV, you have to put yourself out there, and you have to be willing to fail. I mean, right. It's just part of life, and yeah, it hurts. But man, are you going to learn more from that than you will when it really, really goes well? I mean, it just has worked for me. You just cannot have any fear in what you do. You have to put it all out there.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I definitely want to remind folks where they can find Rock the Doc. So let us know where we can find you at Linda G and Rock the Doc.
RockTheDocPodcast.com. That's where you find us, Facebook, Twitter, and again, on heylindag.me. I don't know if this works.
Oh!
Is that backwards?
That always works. Are you kidding me? That looks so live. That's perfect. There you go.
Is that better?
You were ready for that question. I love that.
I was. Well, because when Linda G was taken, and I was like, who could possibly take my .com? So I put Hey Linda G, because on set it was always, there were always a couple Lindas for some reason. That's a very popular name. And somebody would say, Hey Linda G. So I thought, well, why don't we just use that? So Hey Linda G, or at Hey Linda G, that's all you need to do. But everything I have is usually connected to Rock the Doc.
I love that. That was wonderful. Hey, before we say goodbye, let's listen in on the cast of Doc Martin, including Martin Clunes, Carolyn Katz, Ian McNeice, on what the future holds for Doc Martin, although we did get the exclusive here on Forgotten Hollywood.
Whatever happens, Martin and the team are determined they'll all be back in Port Isaac once again for another series.
It's just a really lovely job to be doing.
This is an absolute joy of a job to do. Long may it continue. Long may Martin want to come back and do it several years ahead of us.
As long as people want to watch it and we can keep the writing standards up, then we'll keep it. You have to beat me off with a stick. I love it here.
And thank you for joining us on Forgotten Hollywood. Thank you, Linda G, for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Very informative and very passionate. I want to emphasize your take on what it means to be in Hollywood. Lots of passion, and good luck on your motivational speaking job, and good luck on Rock the Doc. Remember, Forgotten Hollywood, let's never forget.